Good morning. Welcome to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. In our 25th year, we've got a great show lined up for you. I'm Harvey Freed. To the right of me, Harry Glanz.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Harvey. Good morning, Paul, Sarah, playing my intro. I like that. Thank you very much. Getting ready to go. I'm back in the saddle, Harvey. It's been about a month and a half since I've been here.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's your show, Harry. It's okay.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for letting us do this. Becky Alley over there to the right.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Saturday. It's going to be a hot boiler today. Me and my sister were laughing. We're like, isn't this like the kind of heat where like in that level in Mario Brothers where like the sun chases Mario? It's like one of those days.
Yeah, calendar flipped yesterday. It was 10:45 yesterday, the start of summer. It's finally here, folks.
And it's letting us know it's here for
it's
sure.
It's definitely here for 5 days.
It.
We got a great show because we bring in special guests Stacey Taylor and Dan Taylor, of course. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning.
We'll talk about all this great news. Of course, you guys just opened up, Stacey, unbelievable, brand new office in downtown Clarkston.
Yes, I'm so excited about that. I recently joined at Properties, Christie's International, and along with me joining, they just acquired a Clarkston location. So there's a lot of growth going on. They also just opened a Royal Oak office, Traverse City. So we've got presence 11 different areas in Michigan now.
Congratulations. That's great. Don't you feel rejuvenated no matter how long you've been in the business? When you start a new entity, you just get rejuvenated. It's a lot of fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun. And I was sort of starting to feel a little bit like not really burned out, but I needed that shot in the arm. And this is exactly, what I needed.
Wonderful.
Yep.
And they're making a huge footprint. A lot of agents have been moving over there, so there's a lot of great things to offer.
Yep.
You saw that, and you said, "This is a time to make a change like that."
Yes, yep. And I love my former brokerage. I can't say enough good about Quest Realty, but for me, it was just time for a different move. They've got a real strong marketing department. I mean, they're international even, so it made sense for my career.
So how's business? What's going on in your world, in your market? What's going on? We talk about it all the time. We're busier now than we were 30 days ago, and we were pretty busy. Summer's here. People are looking, and everybody says there's a lack of people buying. There's not a lack of buyers. There's a lack of inventory. Now, what do you think?
I agree, and it's funny because like nationally, we keep seeing, it's flipped for the first time. There's more buyers than sellers, but that's not true. That's not true in Michigan. That's true nationally. But the numbers here in our area especially, they don't reflect that. It is still multiple offers in most areas, and it's still a seller's market. Harvey and I were talking, the smart buyers are looking at houses with 2 weeks or more on market because those are opportunity. And, more than ever, I feel like sellers still think it's 2021 and they want to swing for the fences with price. Buyers think it's 2008, and, they want to come in, 20% lower. But those buyers that are listening and they're looking for the houses that were a little overpriced, massive opportunity.
You've been doing it a long time, and so have we. But isn't that always the buyer's mentality? Mentality is always, I'm going to get it for under list price.
Yes.
And the seller's mentality is, oh, no, I'm going to get the max price. But it's really, you have to take the temperature, Becky and Harvey, of the market. It's whatever's going on in that market, in that location, all right? So the Woodward Corridor might be different than Clarkston, which might be different than the further out east you go, St. Clair County. So it all depends on that market.
Yeah.
Like I literally have a transaction going right now where the buyer is 2008 and the seller is like 2020, right? Where they're like want all the money, and they are like literally like to get the file under contract. It was, well, I want this and I want that, and we had concessions on the transaction, but like both parties came to a meeting of the minds. But it really was that exact mentality of, because technically it is a seller's market, right? There's 2.5 months of supply, probably less than that. But you're also seeing buyers pushing for deals. They're pushing for concessions. The agents are pushing for these certain things with these buyers. And I feel like this is a market in Michigan where everybody actually is winning. Both sides feel like they're walking away from each transaction or buying the house where they're like, okay, they don't feel like, so each side isn't giving too much, which is a nice thing to see right now in this market.
Yeah, I agree. I've got one closing Monday. The house went on the market in Clarkston like $335,000. It was too high. And so it was down to 300. And I had some FHA buyers. We were just really striking out. And I said, this one's not offering FHA terms, but I know the listing agent. He's really cool, good guy. So I called him and I said, hey, would you consider FHA on this one? And he said, yes, for you, I'll do it. So we went over and we ended up getting him 10,000 concessions, and it worked out perfect. You know, we had to do a little FHA work, not much, and it's a win.
Yeah.
And, you know, unfortunately, though, had they priced that at $300,000, we would have never gotten that opportunity.
It might have actually got bid up.
Right.
Yeah, but because they had, by that time, 58 days on market, the door was open for us.
So let's stay right there for a second.
Yeah, stay right there. Why?
The fact that you made the phone call
right.
and said, why are you not taking FHA financing, just speaks of the caliber of agent that you are and the buyer representation that you give your clients.
Well, I appreciate that.
So
Thank
when
you.
you mentioned
Yes.
that, our mind went to why. And Becky will tell you, money's green. What's the difference of where the money comes from?
And so for our listeners, right, when you're looking at an agent, some agents will say, okay, we're accepting VA, FHA, conventional, and then they won't mention it, right? Why? Well, maybe the property needs a hand railing going downstairs. Maybe there's some chipping paint. These are minor cosmetic things that maybe the listing agent could be experienced or not experienced. Maybe the sellers just don't want to deal with it. But it takes reaching and shaking the hand across the table to really find out what the buyer or the seller needs, so that way you now have a buyer under contract that would have been beat out in any other scenario.
Yes, yeah.
Kudos to all the agents out there and lenders, everyone who's working together. Collaboration. We talked about collaboration. It was a big word, came out in like 2020 where it really affected our industry. And more of the smarter agents and the better agents are communicating and making that extra phone call, and then the negotiations. Every great transaction, typically you got to feel like you're winning. So you need to get where that seller feels like they're winning and they're getting what they need out of the property. And of course that the buyers are getting a bargain here. So we hear this all the time. Collaboration's a great thing. And your phone calls would be a great thing here this morning too. 806 if you're just joining us. Starting off summer here, we want to hear from you at 248-539-9797. Pat Caputo and Mark Ryan will join us with sports all day long. We've got so much to give you here in 1 hour.
You know, I am so proud right now that when Stacy brought that up, she said why and call. And then Becky immediately, when she heard the story, said, why, what's going on? These are the things, people, you have to understand in our business. If you're not asking the questions, you're not asking the whys and the reasons for things that are happening, you're going to miss out. If that agent or that lender aren't asking the questions and doing the deeper dive, you're just with the wrong people. You got to find your people. So when I hear a story like that and I see what's going on in the studio, guys, you have to understand something. There are things, intangibles, that you have to think about and do to make a transaction very, very successful. So I'm proud.
Yeah,
I'm proud
you're either
right
going
now.
to miss an opportunity or create an opportunity. And the Taylors right here, they are looking to create opportunities for their buyers and their sellers in a market that is technically a seller's market here in Michigan, but it's really not.
Right.
It's like, it's everything. I feel like this is like I talk about it often. This is 2022 market all over again.
I like when you say that. It's an everything market.
It's everything.
Yes.
It's everything all at once. And, you know, you can win in this market. So buyers, if you're sitting on the fence, stop. You just have to get with the right people. And the ones that are ready to buy, we're speaking to you. If you want to rent, you can rent, but have a game plan to get out of that trap.
Yeah.
Segue,
There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
No.
Right? There's nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
If it's not your time right now and you want to stay rent, then that's good too. But you still have to have a plan to get out.
I'm going to bring Dan in the conversation because, Dan, we were talking about these same things, these opportunities that are out there. And you look at things differently and you're like, hey, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
You got to get out of this box. You know, you're sort of putting yourself in this box where you say, this is the only city that's going to work for me, or these are the things. And then you take it a little step further and say, let me drive some other neighborhoods and let me show you some other opportunities.
Sure. Yeah. I've got an architectural background as well. And so I'm a map kind of person. And what I'll do is if I go out with someone a couple times, you get to hear what they want, but often what they say they want morphs, dramatically with a time or two out. And so I can, from that point, take the information that they've given me indirectly and look at it a different way and possibly move them to a different spot because of, hey, I know this area. We wanted a big yard, and I know this place has bigger areas, and it's in your price point. So it's definitely a plus to be able to do that.
And gas is only $3 a gallon, so your real estate agent will definitely drive you around town and show you. Like I had an agent last week, like, Harvey, we saw 11 houses. Yeah. The offer they made was on the 11th one. So how important it is to get out and really see what it is out there that you're looking for. And I think it really takes that. You can do some things on, by clicking buttons on the computer, but housing.
You got to see it.
you gotta really talk to people at housing. You got to go out there and really touch it.
Sure.
248-539-9797. We take your calls all morning long. Stacy and Dan Taylor, of course, join us. Dan with this great background here, full-time architect. He works as a real estate agent. Also, of course, Stacy's broker in the office down there in downtown Clarkston. So pop in and definitely go down and see her down there. And they got some great and brand new restaurants. Clarkston just keeps booming and booming.
Yes, the location, I mean, it's just fantastic. You know, right next to the Fed, got Rudy's Market across from Honcho to grab a margarita. So yeah, it's
I do love me a good Patron margarita every now and then, you know?
Have to bring up drinking with Becky here at the party. No, you're working. You don't have time to drink. That's okay.
No, never.
All right. Definitely, Dan, we talked about this also. A sharp decline in multi-family in May. The numbers came out. But new construction, there's definitely the permits here. We're seeing a lot of subdivisions coming up. So there's a great opportunity for new construction. Really meet with the professionals, talk with real estate agents to find out these subdivisions. Typically, you're not getting a construction loan. You're getting an end loan. You can reach out to us. We can organize it and show you how easy it is to get into one of these properties. And there's a lot of great ones around. You see building across Southeast Michigan. So pretty cool stuff. As we talk about the inventory, Stacy, boy, I don't know. I'm mixed on it. I feel like you said, maybe there's that group of homes out there that if you've been striking out, if you're on the lower price range of homes, let's just say that could be between 140 all the way to 250, somewhere in there, you need to really not only go to these properties, find out where the opportunity is.
Yeah, 100%. Like you were saying, you had someone looking at 11 houses. So in some areas, there's not even 11 houses to look at. I mean, across every price point. So when you can find those areas, like Warren, for example, the buyers, we've got some buyers there, FHA, and we've shown them, I think, 19 or 20 houses total. Yeah. And I'm like, there's not 20 houses in Clarkston across the board, you know. So when you can kind of look and be open to other areas, especially for those buyers that need maybe MSHDA funds, or they're struggling a little bit. They can't compete in the multiple offer scenario. Find those areas where there is more housing, where it's been sitting. And a good realtor, on the buyer side, still knows how to do a CMA, a market analysis for their buyers, and show them what's going on in this market to help them write that strong offer the first time.
See, the more that you speak, the more I realize, not that I'm realizing, but like I admire you. Because you are not just one trick pony. You are out here, both of you know every market and you know every buyer scenario, right? You're dangerous enough to understand the financing, but you also know who you're dealing with, what the clientele is, what they're looking for, and the opportunities. And you mentioned MSHDA, right? You can use those funds to help the first-time buyer actually compete, because otherwise they wouldn't even have these opportunities, right?
Exactly.
But you know what the market is, so you know where to take these individual buyers that are going to help them win, get their foot in the door, have that equity in the home, and then they can be the step-up buyer in a year or two or whatever it is. But if you're renting right now, you have to have the conversations as soon as possible and get in alignment with people like Stacy and Dan, so that we can create opportunities for you.
All right, it's been a challenging housing market for some folks out there, but there's all these great opportunities. We're going to share them with you. 248-539-9797. Keep it here. Alrighty, welcome back to the show, 816. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. We are powered by CMG Home Loans, NMLS 1820, Equal Housing Lender. You can call us at 1-800-LOW-RATE all week long at the office. Here in the studio, 248-539-9797. I'm going to go around the panel again. Stacy Taylor, Dan Jackson, of course. Dan is an architect and, of course, a real estate agent. And Stacy's up and running the new Christie's office, International. I got it.
Well, I'm not running it.
Okay,
no.
you're doing something there.
Yeah.
You're like involved
Yes,
in the
yep.
getting it started. I don't give it to us.
Yes. So I just came over as an agent, but I came over at the same time that they acquired an existing office.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the best office in Clarkston, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Morgan Mills Ford. I love Emily. I've always respected her and considered her a friend. So when the opportunity came up, I couldn't wait to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's a huge name out in Clarkston, the old Morgan Mills Ford. So that's the same office, and you guys are collaboration.
Yes, it has officially rebranded. The signs are up. We're going to have a remodel soon. At Properties Christie's International is currently opening a Traverse City office. And from what I hear, when that's finished, they'll start remodeling Clarkston.
All right. We said a little bit of the spring market, getting some folks out there and stuff. It's been a little challenging for some with the higher interest rates. A little good news, though. Over the last 30 days, we've seen a little bit of a decrease in interest rates. They do go up and down. There's some volatility in the marketplace. There's pending war. There's inflation. There's the Fed. People are telling people they should fire the Fed chairman. We don't know. It's volatile, that's for sure.
Listen, people have settled into where the rates are. These are normal. The rates are the norm right now. And if you're around 7%, maybe a little under, maybe a little over, that's the norm right now. The however is that, as you know, our president wants lower rates, which will spur spending and all that kind of thing. There are a couple the Fed chairman, of course, does not want to lower rates right now. He thinks inflation, and it's been proven inflation is still a little bit higher than they want. However, haven't sat in this chair in about a month and a half, Harvey, but my prediction is going to be that the Fed will start lowering rates this year.
Okay.
We're going to see one, possibly two rate cuts before the end of the year. But you can't wait. If there's a property out there, listen, we can always refinance you, but you got to get in the house. You can't think about what the rates are if you're not in the house, Becky. Let's face it. And you got to get in, and then we can get you lower should they come down. Don't miss out on a property because you're going to sit around and wait. Because you know what's going to happen? You're going to pay more for that same property, Becky, next year.
Yeah, we talk about this often. The rates is a piece of the pie. It's not all the pie, right? And it's a piece of cake to make a cake. The interest rates really, they're not irrelevant, but when the Fed starts talking about lowering the interest rates, that does not have a direct correlation to mortgage interest rates, okay? It's going to have a direct line to student loans, your credit cards, your HELOCs, your short-term lending. However, sometimes in the middle of all that, it does control inflation, and then you're going to see a mortgage pullback. Great. However, with the appreciation that we've seen, even if at like a 5% appreciation, let's just say in some pockets in Michigan, you are seeing that, this $200,000 house that you're not buying today is going to be $210,000 this time next year. Even if the rates went to the high fives, your payment's still going to be $50 more than if you bought today later because of that $10,000. So think about that. If you secure the price of the home, that is really the answer to the question, is we need to secure the price of the home now, we have a payment that we can afford, because when these rates come down, we always know that we can slide down, we can do a lower cost refinance for you, and then you're still winning because now you have equity that you didn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I love that. And I've got clients that have been circling around for a couple of years now, waiting for those
like
rates.
Vultures, like
and
circling.
The same things we looked at that
Waiting for it to
were
die.
400,000. Well, now they're 450 already, in the areas that they're looking. And, you hit the nail on the head. Buy it now. You can always refinance, especially you're comfortable with that payment. I always tell people, keep making that payment, then you refinance. Add that extra to principal, and now you're winning even more. But just buy it, because when the rates go down, the bidding wars are going to ramp back up.
Yes, and now you have the equity in the home for when you're ready to move up or buy that house in Traverse City.
Yeah.
You now have an asset that is tangible that you can tap into, and you can use that money versus your liquid assets.
As Stacy touched upon it, if rates go down, when they go down, there'll be more competition in the market. So what are you waiting for?
Exactly.
We said that.
Heard
What are
that
you
before.
waiting for?
I like the discipline of home ownership. You constantly are making the payment. Like you said, Stacey, bring it up that, okay, so you're used to making this payment, and now the rates drop. Not only could you build more equity by making the same payment, you could drop it to a 15-year. You can drop your mortgage to a 10-year. All of a sudden, you're talking to, look at your life. You're in your 40s, your 50s. You could have a house free and clear as you're entering Harry's age, which is above 60.
I like that.
Might be
That's
the older one
good.
there. Maybe
And
Harry's
other
age.
assets. So, in a shout out to Mike Orlando, he gave us a call off air. We also have an exclusive program called the All-in-One, where it's a first lien home equity line where it comes with a checking, savings. You can use that equity to kind of just build and buy other things. So we're gonna have to do it's a high level conversation. It's not one that we can just breeze through on air. But I'm definitely gonna be talking to him after the show about that, and I feel like we need to bring that up a little bit more often.
Yeah, the all-in-one is exclusive with CMG and Capital
Correct.
Mortgage Funding. And yeah, I got to keep taking the class. Right, there's a lot to
very
learn
high
there
level,
and a lot
yes.
to share.
It's not for
High-level
your-
stuff.
Yes, it's not for your average buyer, but if you can get into that and understand how you can use the equity and you're constantly driving those balances down, then you can take that and you can build your real estate portfolio. We have the tools in our portfolio to be a giant asset to our buyers and our sellers. So tap into us, give us a call. Let's have high level conversations and make sure that we have the path of home ownership or even re-home ownership for you. Make sure we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and as Becky said, we underwrite it, we fund it. It's proprietary to us. Nobody else has this program. So that's a fact. And for more information, just give us a call and we'll tell you about it.
Yeah.
All right, if you're buying in the next couple of years, it's always been a little hassle. Coming up with the down payment money, that's right. If you got rich folks, that's always a good way. If you hit the lottery.
Yeah, birth lottery.
The birth lottery is always a good one. But no, for the average Joe out there, I mean, there are some ways that you can save money. And I think a couple of the high yield savings account, I want to throw it out there. You can look at CDs. And again, you got to figure out, are you going to be buying this year or next year? And if you've got cash at home, this is why it's so important. Becky talks about the conversations earlier. Talk about home ownership in a positive way. If your timeline is 5 years, well, you can look at stocks and ETFs and things of that nature, things that might be a little riskier, but also have higher returns. So you got to be careful. Get with the right people. Again, we know so many financial planners out there. They send us business and we send them back because they can be trusted. And as we talk about real estate, of course, that's the number one thing. Get comfortable with that real estate agent and make sure that you understand, because Dan, it starts off, we can continue that conversation this morning. It starts off with, this is what I want to do. And the truth is, we don't know what we don't know. And so we get out there and start meeting people that are like, no, well, that's close, but this way might work a little better.
Yeah, especially with first-time buyers. That's where you really see it. You hear like their parents chirping in their ear, and I need this, I need that. I got to have 2 bathrooms. I got to have this. And once you get out into the field and you actually see things and you have conversations with them and you listen to their daily life and you understand the routine and those things, hey, you can get by with 1.5. You can get by with this, and you have to also teach them that there are trade-offs.
I had a first-time home buyer, Stacey, I want to interrupt, first-time home buyer, actually, we were looking about $330 and in that price range, and we brought it down because when we start looking at the number and, again, future property tax, and we start educating a little more, getting people offline a little bit just to say, look, those taxes aren't really accurate. So we look them up through the cities and the counties. We go through everything, and we're like, your house payment needs to be here. And if you're young and you're saying to yourself, well, I don't really need that forever house. I haven't even gotten married yet. I have a girlfriend. Then consider that maybe the first house isn't your forever house, and prepare yourself with, like I said, getting the funds together and make sure you're comfortable with the payment.
Oh, yeah. And a couple things I just thought of when you said that. So the one thing that actually scares me so bad is taxes, and how many realtors and loan officers do not understand what happens with taxation. They do not understand that uncapping. And I won't say names of lenders, but I've heard so many people where they look at what they currently are. And I'm like, yes, but do you see the difference between that SEV and the taxable value? Like, these are going to go up next year, but we only have to use what they are right now, is what the loan officer says. Yeah, that's fine, but this client has to be able to afford that $150 jump every month it's going to take, And it's scary. And so I can't say enough about, to buyers, make sure you're getting, number one, with a real estate agent that knows this, but also a lender like any of you here, because you're going to go through all of the numbers. You're going to say, this is exactly what your payment looks like, because you might qualify for $330,000, but you're only comfortable probably at $275,000, for example.
Stacey, I've had that conversation with many, many people, and I feel that it's our job as a lender to disclose. And people say, but Harry, you don't have to disclose the higher number. I go, no, I feel that I have to, because if it works for them at a higher number, it's going to work for them at a lower number, right?
Yes.
So it might work now, but you have to have the conversation, because in February, when the houses get assessed and then the tax bills come out and they see that it's jumped $150, $200 a month, If you don't tell them, they're going to call you and say, how come you didn't tell me? So we prefer to have those conversations up front. And there isn't anything that the three of us and the people in our office, we disclose everything. And we get ridiculed for, they'll say, but you quoted too high of a payment or the costs are too high. No, we have to. They could come in lower. They most of the time will come in lower, but we have to tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so be it. If people want to go get lowballed somewhere else, I don't care about that. I care about giving the proper information.
Yeah. I have a buyer right now when, I brought up the taxes to the agent, right? And they're like, well, oh my gosh, like what, I hope this buyer doesn't back out. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to not have the conversation because I have to lay my head on my pillow at night knowing that I set up my buyer for success, not just for 5 minutes, but 5 years down the road. And if I don't have that conversation saying, hey, by the way, I've owned my house since 2018 and my taxes are still going up because we're in an appreciating market.
Yes.
Okay. You want your values to appreciate. So even my taxes are still increasing. You as a first time buyer are absolutely going to see the majority of the increase that first year. And you have to have that conversation and we have to set them up for success because the truth of the matter is that buyers, you are trying to push the envelope. You're trying to get that most value, but sometimes you got to live under your means and even at your means because you have to make sure you have a payment you can afford now and in the future.
All right, tons of information to still share with you. We're here till 9 o'clock, and then it'll be sports here on 97.1 The Ticket. Again, we take your calls, 248-539-9797. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, 8:31. That's right. It's going to be nice this weekend. Just hang in there. The Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show in our 25th year. I'm Harvey Freed, Harry Glanz, Becky Alley. We're with Capital Mortgage Funding, CMG Home Loans. And, of course, Stacy and Dan. Stacy Taylor. Dan Jackson. DJ.
Yeah.
He's here.
Dan Jackson.
Dan Jackson. Dan, you can be anyone you want to be. I told you on the house here. 2025 near, we're the halfway point. Mortgage rates have not been as friendly for some consumers out there. That's no doubt about it. But not bad. The job market's been pretty good. So we got a lot of buyers out there. And the housing market's been so strong. And welcome to Michigan, folks. You can buy a house. It's extremely affordable. Some states aren't. We are extremely affordable. We were rolling with that tax conversation. So we're going to keep that going here. And we'd like to hear from you. 248-539-9797. But I like the tax conversation because it's really important, guys. Yeah, we're talking about your house payment. And if you're clicking buttons, you're just really not getting that total number. Like I said earlier this week, a first-time home buyer, we broke it down. He's like, oh, I forgot about the taxes. And the particular house was at about $336 a month for property taxes. I looked it up. We did the math. It's going to be $6,000 to $7,000. I don't know what its final price is going to be, but definitely almost double. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, you absolutely have to be careful when it comes to taxes, and you have to have the conversation. And if you're with a lending institution that isn't bringing up what the future taxes are going to be, you need to kind of maybe reevaluate those conversations or even your real estate agent, because you can't close your eyes to what's going to happen. And we have the summer taxes that are coming out in July. We're assessed 2 times a year, once in the winter, once in the spring. So, may reassess for the new properties. So you have to know what you're getting into later. So if you are just, right before the break, I was like, if you are trying to get into a house and you are so thin on what you actually can qualify for, it's going to get real tight once those properties uncap. But understand, though, on the lending side, we also understand that maybe we're only qualifying one buyer. Maybe it's a dual income situation. There's different situations. So we understand the full picture of what you're getting into. And if there's 2 incomes in one household, we're still going to have the conversation. But we need to make sure that if your payment goes up $300, we want to make sure you can afford that, because this is the housing market. The homes are not going to be going down in value in any time soon. And we're just waiting for these rates to drop, but they're not going to go down in 2s and 3s and like we saw in 2020. So if you're waiting for that train, it's going to keep on moving. It ain't stopping at the station anytime soon.
Yeah, it's going to go fast. And even if they do come down, Becky, like you said, it might come down a little bit by the end of this year. We don't know what's going to happen next year. Nobody really does. And if you wait, as we stated before in our previous segments, prices are only going up, specifically in hot areas. So you really can't wait. But again, we caution people, if you're not ready to buy, you got to do the math. It's always about the math. If you're not ready to buy, you're not forced to buy. And if you have to run a little longer to save more money, that nest egg is very important, because we want to put you in a situation that you're going to be successful 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And Becky, I was doing something yesterday. I was writing a little bit of a narrative about you, because we've got a little surprise coming for you next month. But one of the things that you do very, very well is you have those tough conversations with people. Whatever the conversation is, you're looking out for your client's best interest, and you want to make sure that you set them up for success financially down the road. There's nothing worse, and I haven't heard it in a while, there's nothing worse than somebody that says they shouldn't have bought the house because they were put in the wrong program.
Yes. In the conversation truly right now, it's not if or when you're going to buy, it's how. How are you going to buy? It's not the payment that people can afford. It's where's the money coming from. And then after that, it becomes like, oh, I didn't know about the taxes, right? So if we already know the answers to the test, here it is. We have the questions. We know the answers. Let's have the conversation. Is this the house for you? If it's not, then you can move on. You can do the right thing at the wrong time, or you can do the right thing at the right time on your own timeline. This isn't something that we're forcing upon anyone. However, when you can see things for people that they can't see for themselves, it's a beautiful thing. And you guys are so good at that, Stacey and Dan. You guys see the things because you've done the things. You've bought and sold real estate. You own real estate. We've made those moves. And it's important to take people through that little timeline.
Well, and, just kind of segue, the whole reason that Dan ended up getting his license a few years ago, he's an architect, and I would bring him to showings all the time. And, I would just shamelessly, pimp him out, and I'd say, hey, how hard would it be to turn this into a
say
full
that on
bath?
radio?
Sorry.
Low peering wall. Don't knock that down.
I think that's why she married you. That's it. Free advice now.
Yeah, but I I'd have him come to things, and I said, why don't you just get your license, and then you could work with some of my buyers. And it's great because he can help them see the big picture. Like, okay, you really, really wanted that, 2-bathroom house, but there isn't anything in our price point, but look how easily we could take this extra closet and turn it into a half bath, which really is all you needed. He's been invaluable with that. So, I always kind of say, you get 2 for the price of 1, with us. And, he's just invaluable with that. And same with inspections. He knows how to take the information and help the client understand, like, we're not going to get a perfect house, but these are very easy things to overcome. And so I think that we work really well with that, along with lenders like you that can help people understand, here's what you can afford, but this is where you're going to be looking payment wise. So this is where you might actually want to look, and I just think that's so important to set them up for success up front.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so, because again, people lack that vision. And so if you're like, I didn't know a bathroom could go in this closet, happy day. And so it helps that. And then it's not, you realize that it's not going to be that expensive to do those things.
Sure.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk about Michigan specifically. I feel like people kind of take our market for granted a little bit because we are still very affordable here in Michigan. We are a national lender, so we are very much dialed into what's going on across the nation between the other branches we deal with, the other states we're in. I have clients in Florida that their homes have been sitting for months and months and months. Florida is you got the hurricanes, you got the things going on down there, and those property values are sitting. And oftentimes, right, it comes from the bottoms, outside up. Michigan's always one of the last ones to see that. But we have so much vast land, and they're not making more land. You talk about it, more real estate, but like people from the outside are coming into Michigan. So if you live here in Michigan and you want to own some real estate, throw your hat in the ring, because people out of state are coming here because they realize Michigan does have all the things. We get all the seasons, but we're very beautiful. You go up 4 hours and you're in the Caribbean on Higgins Lake or Torch Lake. I mean, we have it all right here in Michigan. So don't let our opportunities slip you by, because you're going to be sitting around wishing you would.
And you talk about a crazy market. Florida's a crazy market.
Oh,
you
my
go
God.
from Tampa on the Gulf side, Tampa all the way down to Naples, and you have property sitting for a long time. You go on the other side of the state, the East Coast, you go into Palm Beach County and places like that, it's you can't find a property.
Yes.
So it's really, you have
There's
to know
pockets.
the area. There are certain pockets, and this is all around the United States. So it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. It's you really have to know the area, and we're lucky enough to be in all 50 states and know a little bit about each state and where we do business. But around here, there are hot areas, and there are areas that aren't so hot. But if you know that area, and Dan, I want to talk about fixer-uppers, okay?
Sure.
If you go ahead, and people still want to do some work themselves, right? If you could find that magic property where it might need a little spit and polish on it, and you could do it yourself, you could still pick something up pretty well.
Sure. Yeah, there are properties still out there, for sure. The downside to that is you also have the sellers that we were speaking of earlier who think that they
It's a
should
Taj
be
Mahal.
Yeah. My property's worth $1 million.
you find something, and if you were in the lower price range, and somebody's got a 2-bedroom house on a slab with no garage, and they're like 300. Why?
Yes.
So but there are still some good opportunities out there. And it's really just you got to get out there.
Got to
and see
find them.
You got to see them. You got to see them.
But it's also having those hard, realistic conversations, right? Just because the neighbor sold their house in 2020 for $300,000, maybe that was probably the lead in the movie, and now you're the supporting character on the block that wasn't as upgraded. So you have to be realistic on what those expectations are as far as property value.
I like that. Yeah. And, I not only do I meet with, my sellers, obviously, like with seller consultations, but I love when I meet with buyers first and have a buyer consultation, and we kind of cover a little bit just generically about the market. I ask them, in a perfect world, what do they want? But then I say, okay, what is the minimum that will work? And they always want to start talking, well, I want a big island in the kitchen, and I want this view, and I want a big fenced yard. And I said, no, what is the minimum that's going to work? Like, we'll try to get you all that, but what is the very minimum that is going to make you pull the trigger, that will move the needle for you? And, more often than not, we end up going back to that in the lower price points, the first time buyers, but they can see how they can transform that, or I say, like, remember, like you said, this is not your forever home. This is your right now home. And maybe this becomes a rental for you in 3 years. because you've got that equity and you were smart with your purchase. But, that just to be realistic and be open-minded. We had a closing yesterday, as a matter of fact, with a client who originally wanted a basement and a garage were must-haves. We closed on a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, actually it's a 1.5 story in Rochester with no garage and on a slab.
Great city.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
location.
Yeah.
though.
Exactly. And that's what he bought.
Great
He bought the
schools.
location. He
Yeah.
bought the
You
opportunity.
can add a garage.
Yes.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
There's the wants and the needs list.
Yes.
What do you want versus what you need? And then when you can identify, okay, then you can always change things how you want. Once you own the property, guess what? You can change it. You can make it what you want. I actually have a client. They have two homes. One's up north, and we're doing a total tear down on a existing property that they have. It's going to be a construction loan that we're doing. It's going to be, they're building legacy. And those are things that we can do. If you own the real estate and that home no longer serves you, we can do a construction loan on a property you already own. It's a tear down, and they have the proper contractors, the licensing, the things, and we can help you achieve those goals and turn it into an end loan. We can do all those things, but you have to own that property first.
I got 2 topics I wanted to jump into, but one's nice and one's not so nice.
I
One
mean,
is
hit us.
one that could do the
Go
nice
first,
one.
and
Well,
hopefully
we
we
come
run
back.
out
We'll
of
keep you
time.
on the line here. 248-539-9797. Keep it here. We'll be right back. Still broadcasting live here in the 97.1 studios. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. If you're just tuning in, 846. Summer just happened last night.
Yeah, it's going to be a steamy one. Might smell like Teen Spirit out here later for
smells
people.
like Teen Spirit.
Still got time to take your calls. 248-539-9797. Stacey Taylor, Dan Jackson came in, of course, with the Christie's International Office in Clarkston. So just keep it simple there. Dan, of course, an architect. We talk about visions. We went all over the place this morning, giving some great information, though, nonetheless.
Yeah, this was like a master class of like all the things.
It is. And still time to get your calls in. Again, 248-539-9797. So we definitely want to hear from you. Harry, just on a light note here, we always talk about the communities. We dropped in Rochester and some different cities here that are so great and all the opportunities. But a little heads up there, Harry. Way back in the day, you were actually a basketball coach at Heartland. But kudos to the Heartland baseball team who
Phenomenal.
pulled off the state championship. So I'm gonna send that out to all those guys. I get a
great
little
baseball,
love here.
A lot of great high school baseball out there. I went to the Michigan High School All-Star game at Comerica Park last night.
Nice.
That was great. See a lot of the kids that are going to be future college players.
East versus West out there.
Yeah. Shout out to Jackson Miller, Lakeland High School, left-handed pitcher going to Bowling Green.
All right.
Going to pitch at Bowling Green, and it was a lot of fun. He's coached with his dad. His dad's a great coach, great baseball family. And it's just fun seeing all these kids out there having a great time on a major league field. You know, you get to play at Comerica Park. That's pretty big in a kid's life. They'll never forget that. No. So it was a lot of fun.
Just adds to this whole area and our whole region here. We've always been very sports oriented in this city. Of course, we're doing our mortgage real estate show for 25 years here on the sports station. But again, a little salute out there for all the athletes and high school athletes and everyone out there who's participating. You got coaches, players, everyone involved. Just makes it great. It makes strong communities. That's what home ownership, Stace, it's all about, is really finding a place. And one of the things I always would tell my clients is specifically is you kids haven't met their best friends. You guys haven't met your best friends. Well, like, Harvey, we're in our 40s. Yeah, your new neighbors are going to be your best friends. And it's just the way it's working. So many great relationships in all the different houses I've owned over the years, Becky. And I know you've experienced the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like you can't pick your neighbors though, really. I mean, so like you have to, you live next to them, it's either going to be great or it's not. And, you know, like you could get the wrong neighbor as well.
I've had
but
that
like,
call before a long time ago.
Yeah, so that's why we, like when you're about to buy the house, drive by it, make sure it fits your needs. You know, what does it look like at nighttime? During the day, don't stalk the new property, right? However,
a little bit,
you know, but it's okay to kind of see what you're getting into. But hopefully the person that you're living next to are amazing, great people. And it's kind of, you're building that community because that's what it's about, right? You can't choose your family just like you can't choose your neighbor sometimes, but kind of you can. I don't know. But just be nice, everybody.
We had a client last summer, as a matter of fact, young first-time buyer, and he would just walk right over and go talk to the neighbors, you know, or, I mean, you know, and I said, it's really not something I should do, but go right ahead. And he'd go over and, it was summertime, they'd be in the yard. He'd come back with so much information, and a lot of
That's
times
my son, my long-lost son.
It deterred them, on a couple purchases. Like, we found out there was, like a group home across the street that the police were often showing up at. And it was like, but it was just so funny because, he wasn't even 30 and he had no problem walking across those lawns and chatting them up. And I loved
spirit.
it. Yeah.
No, we definitely love helping families out there. But, I had a lead the other day and I just have to say, we love working with new families.
Is this what's setting you on fire right now?
I'm putting a nice touch on it. But, the conversation was really interesting. So the real estate agent called me and said, hey, I got some great buyers. You got to help them. They're first-time home buyers. And I was excited, and the conversation didn't go as well as I thought it was going to be. Turns out the husband just started self-employment over the last 6 months. He doesn't have a tax return. They weren't working with any money. Did I mention the kids were screaming in the background? No big deal. I love kids too. No incomes, no savings, and a self-employed. And you don't know your husband's credit score. The conversation just wasn't. So these are, like we say, difficult conversations. And sometimes people don't have them even with their spouses. And you got to be on the same page. So it sort of starts at home. And then if you are both not agreeing, then you get a Stacey Taylor in your life and you get these great real estate agents and lenders that we do the financial end of it. And when we put it all together, it's so important. If you're clicking buttons, it's a zero proposition. That's a zero, because when you don't fit into that lender's box, they don't even call you back and talk about how to save money, how to improve your credit score. They don't have those tools and resources. You're just a number. And we're just trying to urge people to get away from this kind of stuff. Again, nothing wrong with getting some information online, but you really need some great people to back you up.
Oh, yeah, I would agree so much. And I see that on my side of the table. where they've just, maybe browsed online, clicked some buttons. There was no conversation with an actual human being. And if I just always want people to understand that there's lenders out there like you guys where even if they don't qualify or they don't qualify like they want, you're going to give them a roadmap on what to do for the next 6 months. So then they are set up for success when they're ready to look. But you're not getting that when you're clicking around online.
No, you're not. And we're still in a people-y business. I understand that technology is vast and there's AI and you have even things, these like computers that are mocking people's voices now. I mean, fraud is prevalent in the things. However, if you are looking for a mortgage, you have to actually speak to somebody, because if, like what Harvey was just talking about, someone is self-employed and you gross $100,000, but you just started 6 months ago, that income is irrelevant because it's undocumented. You haven't filed it anywhere. And also, if you're self-employed and you grossed $100,000, but then you wrote off $90,000, well, now we're qualifying you off $10,000 that we can use without a history. So these are the things that we are educated. We've been in the business a very, very long time. We know what to identify. We know the conversations. Even like Dan, when you're talking about when you're driving around people, you're hearing what they're not saying. Right. And it's having those conversations where I'm hearing the things that you're not really saying. They're telling me really what's going on behind the scenes, because you don't know. You don't know.
Exactly.
So have the conversations. If you're self-employed and you filed an extension through October, we still have time to figure out what you need to show on paper in order to qualify you for a mortgage. It's your net income, not your gross, if you're self-employed.
Yeah, you have to be careful when you're clicking around too, because you're going to get all kinds of messages, phone calls, email. You're going to get everything, and it's not going to be accurate unless you talk to somebody. And there are a lot of things going around. A lot of your information is public information. So when you get these calls or these, even mailers are going around right now that are telling you that you can get this rate and these costs.
Yes, sir.
They're inaccurate, and you've got to be very, very careful. And we offer a service where you can give us a call, and we will make sure that it's accurate versus inaccurate. We say it all the time, accurate versus inaccurate information, dissemination of that information. And we'll go ahead. And right now it is prevalent that you're going to get calls and you're going to get texts and you're going to get email from people that are just trying to take your money.
All mortgages are recorded information. Again, my neighbor, a salute to Megan. She brings me over 3 letters the other day, and I did a refinance for a couple years ago.
Regarding capital mortgage funding. No, it's not.
All this. It's bad.
It's not
bad players out there.
Oftentimes, really small letters, it will say not affiliated with such and such company. So you have to read it. But I encourage my clients, if you get something in the mail that you're not sure what it is, send me a picture of it.
Yeah.
And I will tell you if it's legit or not. And I'll be like, yes or trash. And it's 99% of the time, you're trash.
It's not good. And we commend Senators Jack Reed and Bill Haggerty, as well as the bill's dozens of bipartisan co-sponsors. They continue leadership. The Mortgage Bankers Association is proud to announce that these trigger leads are going to stop. And that's what we're really getting at.
I just heard that too.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can opt out still, because it might not take place quite yet. So you can opt out. Call us at Capital Mortgage Funding, 1-800-LOW-RATE. We'll show you how to opt out. Why? Because if we run your credit report, then a whole bunch of strangers, they sell that information to strangers. I've talked to these strangers. You don't want them talking to you.
Don't talk to strangers.
Yeah, don't talk to them. They're
Harvey
no good.
likes talking to strangers.
He does.
It's a new audience for him.
I
It
just
really
beat him
is.
up a little. Just a couple minutes left. Stace, just got any new listings we want to talk about?
Oh gosh, I've got a great one, but we have not settled on the final price yet.
Okay, well, let's just give a little,
we had photos yesterday. It's just under, with the walkout basement, under 5,000 square feet on 10 acres, Heartland Schools.
Oh, wow, there you go.
Massive pole barn, beautiful pole barn, in-ground pool. It's fantastic. It's basically a ranch, but they did add an upstairs ensuite. Probably going to be sitting maybe like 1.1. Is where we should be.
It's a lot of acreage.
It's a big one.
It is. I mean, it's 10 pristine acres. It's beautiful. So that's going to be coming soon. If anyone is looking for some acreage out in Heartland Schools, we were just talking about how great Heartland Schools are.
Yeah.
It's a stunner.
Can we do batting practice in the pole barn?
You could.
Okay,
You could
well,
do-
go.
yeah,
Out
you
there.
could.
Well, football field. Build your own football stadium out there. And then,
Yeah, like someone could live on my 10 acres. Be like, you live here? Like,
I don't even know who you are. Right.
Yeah.
Also, though, these lots become splittable. Dan, we'll throw you back in this conversation, because sometimes you can find out quickly from the townships or cities, hey, can I split this land too? I don't need all those acres in back.
Right.
And now all of a sudden you've got a huge investment.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely the route to go. If you're looking to, expand, buy something with acreage, live in the house, split it, make some money off the other side, or build another house on the other properties, and make money that way as well. So
Yeah, we had some clients do that a couple of years ago. Remember? Northville they bought.
Northville.
Yeah, and it's the house needed some work, but it did have a couple acre splittable lot. So their goal is to live there a few years, and then they're going to sell that property, build their dream house.
And
so
we could assist with that because we can do no construction loans.
Right.
So here we are. We can
Yes.
help you achieve your goals, however they look.
And Dan will draw up the plans for the house.
Yeah,
Yes,
one
look at
stop
that.
shop.
Yes,
There
we got it all right here.
All right, as we're coming up to tax season again, cash out refinances, we're up to the end of the show here, but cash out refinances are still in play. Folks, if you're a little bit buried in debt, reach out to us at Capital Mortgage Funding, 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker. Maybe it's time to do that debt consolidation loan. That's right. Take that higher rate now. What? The higher mortgage rate? Yeah, it's a lot lower than those credit cards.
Amen.
So run the numbers. We'll show you how to do things. And that wraps up our show. I want to thank Stacey Taylor and Dan Jackson for coming in. Hey,
Dan
you guys,
Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you
You
very
guys
much.
are all fantastic. All right, reach out to us at Capital Mortgage Funding all week long at 1-800-LOW-RATE. We will see you next Saturday. Keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. We got Pat Caputo. He's coming up next.